Everybody. Well, President Donald Trump released his new tax plan this week, and joining us this morning to talk more about that and how this plan could impact Texans, Congressman Lloyd Doggett joins us. Good morning.
With you.
We appreciate you talking about this because you really are a top Democrat in Congress right now when it comes to the tax plan, in tax in general. So what is your take on this tax proposal?
Well, it is such a contradiction with everything we've been told up until this point.
Okay.
I don't believe in borrowing from the Chinese and the Saudis in order to finance more tax breaks. And this one is dripping in red ink. It could cost trillions of dollars that are added to our deficit. So that's problem number one. Mm-hmm. Problem number two is whether this just widens the income gap in our country. The Secretary of the Treasury said they weren't going to tilt this toward the super rich as they had in their health care tax plan.
Right.
But this one does. So it's great breaks for those at the top, for some of the corporations that really haven't been paying their fair share, but not much for the rest of us.
What would you like to see change in this tax plan?
Well, I like to be sure that we're paying for it by closing loopholes, of which there are many, in tax preferences and the like, rather than borrowing from abroad. And I'd like to see the focus be on those in the middle class. For example, I've suggested that we improve the American Opportunity Tax Credit that helps people get a higher education, child care tax credit and the like, rather than focusing it all at the very top and on some corporations which are dodging their fair share of taxes. A company like Pfizer claims that it has all these offshore tax havens. It gets a much better tax rate than the corner pharmacy where you might get a prescription filled.
It is a good point because one of the president's main sticking points with this was that he was going to strengthen the middle class with this tax plan. But it sounds like it's a deviation from that.
I think it's a significant deviation. And, of course, it is difficult to tell because after all the talk and all the tweets, we have one page from him on this. We have some idea of what it will look like based on speeches and my Republican colleagues in Congress. And another aspect that we're uncertain about that's very bothersome for the Texas economy is something called the barter adjustment tax, which would add 20% to the cost of every margarita, Corona, or auto part that might come in from Mexico, or avocado, or fresh produce, anything that we get from Mexico. He said he would use that to pay for his unnecessary wall, but this would be applied to all imports coming in. And most people think that would be devastating to the Texas economy.
Yeah, that would be passed on to the consumer.
Absolutely, and it's that's our biggest trading partner is Mexico, and so adding those taxes would not be a good thing in my opinion.
Now let's talk about his 100 days in office. What's your assessment so far of the president's 100 days?
Well, if we listen to him, it's the greatest 100 days in all of human history. I guess it depends on how you grade what the standards are. And to be fair to him, I give him an A+ if we're evaluating insulting tweets. We've never had a president who's been this repetitive in his insults. If you are looking at unnecessary executive orders where he could have just picked up the phone instead of having a signing ceremony. He's the greatest in that, cozying up to authoritarian leaders, breaking campaign promises. But if you're looking at where I sit in Congress on legislation, you don't apply a grade of a letter. You can use a number, and it's 0. He has 0 legislative accomplishments. Thank heavens, given some of the legislation he wanted to promote, but 0 for this Congress. You can look back just at the last week. We were going to attack North Korea. We were going to abolish the North American Free Trade Agreement with Mexico and Canada. We'd have a new health plan, and we'd have a tax plan. And now we're to the end of the week, and the only thing that actually became law was extension of the operations of the federal government. So considerable talk, many tweets, but not much action. The one area I think that he's done some real damage, and we had a great gathering here in Austin yesterday about it, is climate change. And we are seeing, from the time I was a boy here in Austin, when we had hot weather in the summer versus hotter, now it's all hotter. And we see intensified weather patterns.
Absolutely.
An increased frequency. And we felt that right here in Central Texas. And the worry about West Nile virus, Zika virus, and other diseases that are moving into our area from the tropics as we begin to look more like the tropics. So that's a real challenge I'm concerned about and that we need to keep working on.
And really quickly, Congressman Doggett, what is your take on the health care plan? Is it something that you plan on supporting or trying to change, or what's the deal?
I believe we need some significant improvements in the Affordable Care Act, but abolishing it is the wrong way to go.
Okay.
And in short, under the plan that was discussed this past week, they're trying to get votes on, seniors will see their premiums soar. People with pre-existing conditions, of which there are many in Texas since it's defined broadly, will get charged much more to get their insurance. And those who've been counting on essential health benefits, such as prescription drug coverage or mental health coverage or maternity coverage, which you just couldn't get prior to the Affordable Health Care Act, they will lose those rights under this bill. So I think it begins to look not like Obamacare, but like nothing care as proposed. And I believe we should be going the other way and trying to come together and make improvements in the areas where there are some shortcomings in the Affordable Health Care Act, but we're not there yet.
Okay. Congressman Doggett, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you, Corey.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Your father and